Welcome to In Love. My name is Natalie Garnica and I am your host. And today I'm super excited for our interview with the beautiful Uma Dinsmore-Tully. Say hello.
Hi, welcome. Namaste. I'm pleased to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
Well, thank you for coming. I really wanted to invite you to be on our event because Uma focuses on yoga therapy with really focusing on our yoni, on our sexual, woman energy. And she is really someone who, especially if we're focusing on helping women tap into themselves and their internal powers, I couldn't think of anyone better than Uma because she does a practice called Yoga Nidra, and she's one of the co-founders of the Yoga Nidra network. And I think it's such a beneficial program or kind of form of yoga that maybe you can share a little bit more on what it is and how this can help us as women.
All right, so the main thing I'd love to share about Yoga Nidra is that unlike most other applications or forms of yoga, you don't have to do anything. The welcome is for yourself now, just as you are. Everything about you is welcome, shadow and light, tired and energized. The whole of you is welcome. And so all you have to do for the practice is get comfortable and lie down. So I find it's a very nourishing practice. And in that kind of self-acceptance, it allows a kind of self-love as well to arise that's very genuine. And that it's a valuable practice that actually I can't speak highly enough of it because it's a kind of antidote in some ways to everything else. And it means that simply through being, we drop out of doing and thinking, we come into feeling and being, and all you need to do is be comfortable enough and be able to hear, and that's it. Actually, you enter into a trance state that sometimes is a little bit like a dream state. It's a kind of in-between state. And so we learn to be comfortable with being with uncertainty and confusion because nobody quite knows where they are. But most people find it very pleasant. And they find that when they come up after it, they go, oh, goodness, time has flown. Like they don't realize how long they've been there, or they don't realize what they've been doing, because actually you don't have to do anything. So the magic of the practice is that it is love. So what I mean, this is talking about being in love, but Yoga Nidra is love because actually it's just being, and just to be here is enough. So that's,
I love that part where you're like, it taps into all of our senses, right? Sometimes we're just so on the go, we're focusing on all these external things and we lose out on what really makes us feel alive, right, as human beings, which is to feel, to see, to tap into all of our senses and allow them to really just be, and that's I think the first time I ever heard someone tell me just be, stop doing and just be, it was really frustrating for me. I was just like, what are you talking about? Just be, and so this is another part of why I think Yoga Nidra is so beautiful, because it allows people to allow themselves to just be in the moment, right? Yeah.
it cultivates our capacity to do that. And when we do that, we realize that that's all we have. That you don't have anything more than that moment, because that one might be your last. And it's not really very morbid to say that, it's just a truth. And that when you realize that truth, actually everything is a little bit different. We can fully inhabit how we feel, and that might be angry or sad or desperate or ecstatic or in love or truly, enraged or inspired. We could be all of those things, but we fully inhabit them and know that we're fully inhabiting them, because actually, and then the next minute something else might arise. And Yoga Nidra is part of what it does is it gives people a rest, which is kind of important, a rest from doing, so they can just rest in their being. But it also allows us to develop some quite important skills for living. And those skills are to do with welcoming in everything as it arises. So that means, as you move through life, you see that, 1 minute there's deep grief and sadness, and that might happen on a beautiful sunny day, or you might encounter a really powerful sense of disempowerment one minute, but at the other you might actually connect with something that really inspires you. So we're kind of in Yoga Nidra, we do things that bring opposites together. So some people would call it a meditative, it's like a heart-based meditation, which gets you out of your head. It goes down. And in some of the Nidra that I do, like a Yoni Nidra, it brings us down. And I'm beginning to think that that's the sort of thing that might be very useful, you know, to share with everyone here, because it actually not only awakens our senses to all that's, you know, in the head senses, but actually the whole body, including the Yoni, because actually there's a whole world in there. It's like we inhabit a world of our bodies, elementally speaking, but we also inhabit a world in the Yoni. The whole world is in there. You know, there's a cosmology inside there. So that's something that brings like a deep sense of connection with ourselves. I think that's important, or often forgotten about, you know.
Yeah, that's what I was going to say, is sometimes forgotten about or never even like introduced, you know, into to some people's like even existence of like, oh, my yoni, my energy down there, like what is that? So I would actually really love that to be
and
shared.
I think, yeah, that would be good, because sometimes the reason that we can't connect with these things is because there are overlays of shame and guilt, and those things are laid down really early, and you can spend a long time in therapy poking around in those early memories, but a lot of those things are pre-verbal. So they're embodied. They're not things that you can really speak about. And even if you do speak about them, that's quite a cognitive act. Like to verbalize those experiences is good, it's helpful, but it's not actually really going to touch literally the embodied presence of those feelings, which is in every cell. And that's what's good about something like Yoga Nidra, is because it's actually, it uses words, but you don't really need to pay attention to the words. You're really settling, and you notice it in your body. What I notice is that people who have a regular practice of Yoga Nidra, so I'm talking like a daily thing, it doesn't have to be a big deal. Like instead of the snooze button in the morning, you can listen to a Yoga Nidra in the morning. You know, you can actually connect in, and that wakens every day with a sense of the capacity to be fully present. And that changes everything.
I love that, because, you know, kind of like what you were saying earlier as well, where it's like, yes, you will do Yoga Nidra right now. You will feel the connection now, and it carries on even after, right? Like to allow you to continue to be present in each moment throughout the day. Yeah. I think is super important for people that really want to tap into themselves and really just like be in alignment with, or just like, again, tap into who we are. And so I think that that's such a beautiful part of this experience that we're going to have.
Yes, that's the idea. Yeah, that's good. So I'm really happy to be able to share it with you, because like people think these things are kind of like esoteric and special and you need special equipment. You don't. All you need, I mean, literally, we can do like 10, 12 minutes. It's nice to have 20 minutes, you know, but like if you've got a daily practice of like tapping into that, it's always going to be with you. It becomes, and it is to do with practice. It's better to do little and often, because then it becomes part of your daily perceptions of what's arising, and how to respond to that. And I think that's like a little bit more, you're more alive, basically. Yeah.
So before we tap in, or we get into the actual practice of Yoga Nidra, I wanted to know a little bit of like, where did it start from? You know, I'm a little curious on like, how did you co-create this practice?
Well, I didn't create it. I mean, we created together with my husband, I created the Yoga Nidra Network, which is a useful resource to spread awareness. There's a lot of teachers that we've trained teachers, and a lot of other organizations. There's many different ways to do Yoga Nidra. And so we welcome all the different schools, and they all share different things. But and that's what we're doing now, like what I'll share with you and what all those different schools are sharing is a very contemporary practice. It's actually a hybrid. It's the hybrid of quite a lot of different kinds of meditative awareness, trance induction, autogenic sort of auto-suggestion. All of these things are put together to create a practice of Yoga Nidra. But if you want history, which I will keep very brief because I'm in the middle of writing a big encyclopedia of Yoga Nidra, which is called Nidra Shakti, and it's like this fat. It's about 700 pages long. So you don't want me to bore you with the geeky history because I've got a 60-page chapter on the history of Yoga Nidra. All you need
that
to know,
later.
we'll save that for later. All you need to know is where it's coming from is partly out of India, like ancient Indian philosophical and epic poetry describes the state of Yoga Nidra, this philosophical state of being in the void, the creative void where anything can happen, where things dissolve and arise. But it's also partly based on some medieval, so 1450 medieval Indian approaches to Hatha Yoga, which is what a lot of people practice in the West. And there's also some very like 19th century US and European thinkers, psychologists, people from Chicago and Massachusetts and Austria and Switzerland, and they were all developing ways of working with trance and meditation. And all of that gets mishmashed up. It's a very nice example of the benefits of miscegenation. That's what I see. It's like it mixes it all up, and what you end up with is an awesome practice that's really powerful that you can adapt for all sorts of purposes. So today we're going to adapt it for like embracing life with joy, you know, but that's where it comes from. I won't say any more because I can go on for a long time. You don't want me.
That's good because for me personally, I do like to geek out, and I like to get a little bit more information, on just like the history, because I think allows me to really understand it a little bit more. So without further ado, I would love to for you to lead us on a small.
Okay. So thank you. So all you need to do now is get comfortable. So an ideal way to be is horizontal. If you can get horizontal, do that. If you're sitting in a chair, you just lean back and feel you get off. There's a nice angle you can kind of settle into. You can close your eyes. You can want to feel that you're in a safe space, because ordinarily if I was there with you, I'd keep a kindly watch over you. This is my watch. You can relax. There isn't anything that you need to do. Welcome home to yourself. So the plan really now is to do nothing. So for about the next 12 or 13 minutes, we're simply going to settle either horizontally or vertically into the most comfortable way you can get this body. So you think of these bones settling down, and maybe now take a big breath in and a big sigh. And sometimes, yawning is a really good thing to do. Huh? You can have a good yawn and stretch the jaw and release the neck. And if there's any little place that doesn't feel super comfy, you can wiggle your neck or your shoulders. You can have a little stretch. And the idea is that you can just settle down. And once you've settled, you don't need to do anything at all, because you have arrived. You have arrived, and there's nowhere else to go that you need to be right now, other than right here and right now. So welcome home to yourself, and welcome to the openness of awareness, which is Yoga Nidra. And Yoga Nidra just means yoga sleep. So you may find that you could let your physical body begin to drift into sleep, and maybe your mental attention stays alert and attentive. And you actually don't need to pay any attention to the words which are being said. Simply to be here is enough, and to hear all the sounds in the space where this body is resting. So maybe the sounds that are quite far away, they could be outside, up above. There could be the sounds around you in the building or outside. And then there could be sounds a little closer in, so you could hear perhaps the sounds of your own breath, or maybe the sounds of your body settling. Quite often you can hear the sounds of the digestive system settling in, maybe rumbling. And then if there's anything that you could do that would make yourself even a teeny tiny little bit more comfortable, you just go ahead and you do that. And every time you exhale, you know that you can settle more deeply down into the support of your chair. You can shift. You're going to lie down. Good move. Yeah. And at any point, this is your practice. So you can't do it wrong. There isn't any way to do it wrong. And you know what? The reason there isn't any way to do it wrong is because there isn't anything to do. There's nothing to do, and there isn't any way you need to go. There is nobody to please here. There are no deadlines to meet. There's nothing that is required from you. All that's needful is simply to be here and to simply drop out of thinking and doing, so that it's possible just to be here in this openness of awareness, which is Yoga Nidra, and to be fully present to this settling process. You can notice the body settling a little bit more down, and know that all that arises is welcome. That means every fidget, every wriggle, every cough or snuffle, every drop of blood, every cell, every hair on this body is welcome. The whole of you is welcome, just as you are. Just as you are welcome. Simply to be here and to rest and to receive the nourishment of rest that enables this being to receive the presence of all that arises each and every day, just as it is. Because we welcome ourselves just as we are, we can then welcome all that arises just as it is. And with that intention, and only that intention, simply resting is enough, and noticing the breath coming in and going out. And there's an invitation to notice each of the senses and what it is that's noticeable, maybe starting with the sounds, as I've mentioned, and simply being aware maybe of the sound of this voice, and the sounds in the space where this body is resting, that they're all welcome. Maybe feeling the spaces inside the ears. Could you feel those? And could you simply notice how it might be to welcome the sounds that could be heard in the spaces outside of the ears, to welcome those sounds into the spaces inside the ears. And welcoming those sounds, perhaps you could notice also how maybe the sound of the breath, you can hear that. And could you perhaps welcome the feel of the breath, maybe the touch of the air coming in and out of the nostrils? Or perhaps you could notice the touch of the air on skin, which is covered up, or skin which is uncovered, maybe the face and the hands. And welcoming all of those different touch sensations, so different temperatures and different textures, maybe noticing those. Noticing over the whole of the skin, a welcome for the sense of touch and for the many different textures and temperatures that are detectable through the sense of touch. And welcoming even perhaps the touch of the air on the delicate skin of the eyelids. Could you notice maybe the eyelids resting over the eyes and the air gently touching the eyelids? And then in behind the eyelids, could you welcome the eyes themselves and all that they can see, even behind the closed eyelids? Could welcome maybe whatever lightness or shadow is there. There could be movements or pattern, or really nothing in particular. But the sense of welcoming all that's visible. And at the same time, maybe welcoming the places in the body that are a little warmer than others. Maybe there's places that feel a little warmer, maybe deep in the core of the body, feeling the presence of the element of fire in the body in the form of warmth or heat. And then maybe also noticing how it would be to allow there to be a sense of welcoming in not just the sense of warmth, but also maybe all of the different taste sensations. Noticing the touch of the tip of the tongue And the touch of the tip of the tongue on the roof of the mouth, on the floor of the mouth, aware of all that can be tasted and noticing that, all of the different taste sensations. And in welcoming all the different taste sensations inside the mouth, could you perhaps welcome the element of water, like the saliva inside the mouth, welcoming that? And maybe welcoming not just the saliva, but all the other fluids in the body, like the tears that are bathing the eyes, or the fluids around each cell and inside each cell, and every drop of blood and all of the lymph and all that flows in currents and rhythms and tides through this body. Could you welcome the element of water inside the mouth and everywhere else? And last of all, maybe just feeling the weight of this body, feeling the weight as the body settles down into the earth, and feeling the bones and the joints, and just letting the heaviness of the body be truly welcomed by the earth. And in welcoming this heaviness of the body and the earth connection through seated or through lying, you could welcome just how it is to be a part of this earth, and to welcome in the nostrils all the odors and aromas that might be present in this space. So letting there be a welcome for all the different odors and aromas, connecting with the sense of smell and with the element of earth. And in allowing that to happen, welcoming all these senses, you could welcome the whole body. So feeling however the body's resting now, that you could welcome the whole of the body, from the head to the feet, from the right side to the left. Could you welcome the little space between the eyebrows? Could you welcome the little space deep inside the head and the whole of the face resting? Could you welcome that space between the two collarbones, right at the base of the neck, in that space? And maybe as the awareness travels through, a deep welcome for the shoulders and down both arms. Could you welcome the sensations and the spaces in the elbows and along in the forearms and all the way through to the wrists? And every place is welcome. Down into the palms of the hands, could you welcome the sensations there in the right hand and in the left hand? Could you welcome the tips of the fingers on the left hand and on the right hand? And could you welcome the whole of the right thumb and the whole of the left thumb? And then both hands, just receiving and welcoming all the sensations arising in the hands, both right and left. And all the way back up through the wrists and the elbows into the shoulders, so that the welcome now travels right into the chest, into the heart space, filling the whole body with a real sense of welcome for all the sensations arising in the chest and in the belly and in the pelvis, all the way through. In the pelvis and down through the whole of both of the legs, through the buttocks and the thighs, welcoming all the sensations arising through the knees and the shins, all the way through into the ankles and the heels, right the way down to the tips of the toes. Welcoming all sensations arising now in the whole body, from the toes to the top of the head. And maybe now as you rest, could you allow the awareness to travel with the welcome of all sensations, from the feet and the ankles, through the knees and the groins, and to settle the awareness now in and around the whole of the pelvic floor, and maybe in the contents of the pelvis. So welcoming all sensations arising, welcoming all sensations arising in the pelvis, welcoming all sensations as they arise, welcoming. everything that arises just as it is, so that the whole body can rest, receiving this moment of rest, receiving the moment of rest. Just to be here is enough, and to welcome all sensations now, inside and outside. Could you welcome that? Could you welcome the sensations deep inside the body, in all the different spaces in the body? And then could you welcome the sensations outside the body? So maybe you could follow the breath, and letting the breath go all the way out, could you like drop the awareness deep inside and just welcome the sensations within? Welcoming all sensations within. And then as the breath arrives, as you breathe in, maybe you could let your awareness travel right out to the skin and the hair and all that's outside and visible, and welcome all the sensations at the periphery and the outside of the skin. And as things move now with the breath, you could welcome the sensations inside, the sensations outside, inside and outside. And then both at the same time. Would that be possible? Perhaps in a witness consciousness, as the witness, welcoming the sensations within, the deep inside spaces in the body, and then sensations outside. All the way through, inside and outside, outside and in. The whole of you is welcome, just as you are in this moment. It is enough simply to be here. And in this way of being, perhaps now, letting all of this go, just to be here is enough. To rest, to receive, simply to be. To rest, to receive, and simply to be. In the openness of awareness, which is Yoga Nidra, you are so welcome, just as you are. Free in this moment, allowing all to be. And then feeling that this welcome is something that can always be with you, that can always be with you. Allow there to be a really very gentle awakening of movement in the body, wriggling and stretching, slowly perhaps even just moving the tip of the tongue around, or very gently wriggling the fingers and the toes, or moving the lips a little bit, or maybe taking a big yawn and easing out. So slowly letting yourself awaken. Oh, I see awakening arising. And as you do that, it's as if the practice can go with you. So here's a thing. Perhaps now as you breathe, you could simply feel that deep sense of welcome could come with you. And that every so often as you go about the day, you could simply awaken inside you the way you are awakening now. You could just awaken and look at whatever's happening or whatever you're feeling, and simply notice how it is, just to welcome it in, and to know that just as you are completely welcome here and now. Lovely. So the practice of Yoga Nidra is coming towards an end, and I hope you can take it with you and that you heard every word.
I did. And what I really loved about this
practice is now finished. I do have to tell you it's finished. The practice is finished, but you can carry it with you.
Yeah, like what I really liked was you guided us to pay attention to parts of my body that I never thought about, like the inside of my ear, and listening to the inside of what my ear has. And in that moment, I even like kind of heard my heartbeat. you know. And then like you also said like my eyebrows, you know, in between my eyebrows. Like I was just like, ooh, that's an interesting spot to think about, you know.
And all these spaces were just like, you know, just letting there to be a welcome. Yeah. That changes really how we can like welcome joy and sorrow and all that arises. And that's kind of what being in love with life is about, isn't it? Oh, you know, it's like actually you can do that. It's not always going to go to plan. Because life is like that.
Yeah. So, you know, honestly, Uma, this was exactly what I needed right now. This week has been very like hectic for me, and to have just a moment to just be and not do was perfect for me. And I'm sure there's a lot of women out there that are in that moment as well, where, you know, these couple of minutes of just resting and tapping into our bodies and really connecting with parts, like I said earlier, not even places we've ever thought about to connect with, is so beautiful.
Good. Well, I'm glad. I'm glad it was of value. And I hope that part of what's nice about the practice is that it doesn't have to take very long. You can do it every day. And it actually makes a difference to how every day can unfold, because you can't plan every day, but you can actually tune in this way of welcoming each day in your own practice. And you can do it lying in bed. Like, you know, you don't have to do anything special.
So if people want to get to know you a little bit more, how can they find you? Or like also what kind of juicy offer do you have for them?
Okay, so I think the most lovely thing that you can do is more Yoga Nidra. So we'll have a special Yoga Nidra for you through the Yoga Nidra network. That's where it'll be there for you. And that Yoga Nidra network also has a lot of wonderful, like in 18 different languages, has 18 different languages of Yoga Nidra. So whatever your mother tongue is, you can connect with. And if it's specifically around the women's work that you're interested in, then Yoni Shakti is a good resource. That's what I put together. So, and I'll actually be in the United States in October. So I'll be in California in Santa Cruz doing a whole weekend of Yoga Nidra. So if you like it, like the 1st of November, I'll be there doing like Yoga Nidra for Creativity Unlimited at the 1440 Multiversity. So
Thanks. Cool. I'm in California, so I'll definitely look into that.
Santa Cruz. Up in the redwoods. So, but yeah, but you can do it anyway, but it's kind of really nice to be like floating in some nice infinity pool with the redwoods there and all of that kind of thing. So we will be there for a whole weekend, and you do like loads of Yoga Nidra every day. So you're all invited.
Awesome. Okay, well, thank you so much, Uma. I loved this experience. And so anybody that wants to continue to do a little bit more Yoga Nidra, all that information is going to be below. And yeah, and thank you again.
Thank you.
All right, until next time.
Until next time, lovely ones. Bye-bye.